Let me challenge you. If you stripped away her beauty for a second, what would you compliment? Most men never get past the surface. That's why they stay on the surface. Women hear about their looks all the time. What they rarely hear is recognition of who they are beneath it. And here's the dangerous part. If you only compliment what she sees in the mirror, she'll only see you as another admirer. There are 8 compliments that go beyond attraction and tap into something more powerful. Emotional imprint. When you understand how to activate that layer, she won't just enjoy your attention. She'll feel drawn to your presence. This isn't about flattery. It's about understanding how a woman's mind actually works. When she feels seen beyond the surface, something shifts inside her, and that shift changes how she feels about you. If you value this kind of psychological insight, like this video and subscribe. Most men stay stuck at surface attraction. You're here to go deeper. Let's start with the first one. Number 1. That fragrance you're wearing is addictive. Picture this. She walks past you for only a second. No dramatic moment. No long conversation. Just a subtle trace of her perfume in the air. Hours later, you're driving home. And somehow, that scent is still in your head. Not her dress, not her shoes. The scent. Here's what most men don't understand. Smell is directly wired to emotional memory. It bypasses logic. It goes straight to the part of the brain that stores feeling. That's why a random perfume can suddenly take you back to a specific night, a specific woman, a specific moment. So when you tell her, that fragrance you're wearing is addictive, you're not just complimenting how she smells. You're creating association. You're subtly tying yourself to something she will use again. Every time she sprays that perfume before a date, before work, before stepping into a room, your voice can echo in her mind. Most men only notice what they see. They say, "You look good." That's surface level, average, predictable. But when you notice what she feels like to be around, you separate yourself instantly. You show presence, attention, awareness, and listen carefully. Delivery matters. Don't say it loudly. Don't exaggerate. Lower your tone slightly. Slow down. Let it land. As if you're stating a fact, not chasing approval. When a woman realizes you notice subtle details, she feels different around you. Not just attractive. Not just desired, unforgettable. Because now, you're not just a guy who looked at her, you're a man who lingered. Number 2, your smile could light up an entire room. Let me tell you something most men get wrong. When they compliment a woman's smile, they focus on the surface. Nice teeth. You have a cute smile. Safe, harmless, forgettable. But a woman doesn't just want to feel beautiful. She wants to feel impactful. Think about this. Have you ever been in a room that felt heavy, tense, cold, and then someone walks in, smiling genuinely, and the whole atmosphere shifts? Conversations soften, shoulders relax, energy changes. That's not about lips or symmetry. That's presence. When you say, "Your smile could light up an entire room," you're not admiring her face. You're acknowledging her influence. You're telling her that when she walks in, something moves. That hits differently. Because most men only see what's directly in front of them. They see her features. You're seeing her effect. If you only notice her lips, you're average. If you notice the energy she carries, you're rare. And here's the deeper layer. Women are constantly aware of how they look, but they rarely hear how they impact a space emotionally. When you recognize that, you step into a different category. Not another admirer, not another guy chasing validation. You become the man who sees her power. Now, how you say it matters. Hold eye contact for a second longer than usual. Let there be a slight pause before you finish the sentence. Confidence is quiet. It doesn't rush. When she feels that you're not just drawn to her appearance, but aware of her presence, something shifts internally. She doesn't just feel admired. She feels powerful. And when a woman feels powerful around you, she leans in. Not because you flattered her, but because you recognize something most men never even notice. Number 3, I love how real you are. You don't try to fit in. Let's be honest. We live in a world of filters, not just on social media. In real life, people soften their opinions. They adjust their personality. They become who they think they're supposed to be, especially women. From a young age, they're taught to be agreeable, pleasant, polished. So when a woman chooses to be blunt, honest, a little unfiltered, that's not accidental. That's risky. Authenticity is attractive, yes, but more than that, it's vulnerable. So when you look at her and say, I love how real you are, you're not giving a casual compliment. You're validating courage. You're telling her that the version of herself that doesn't try to impress, the version that speaks her mind, is the one you respect. Most men chase the polished version, the curated version, the version designed to be liked. But when you honor the raw one, you flip the dynamic. You're not praising performance. You're rewarding truth. Imagine this. She says something slightly controversial at dinner, something honest, something that might make other people uncomfortable. Instead of trying to smooth it over, you smile and say, that's what I like about you. You don't pretend. In that moment, she registers something important. She doesn't have to edit herself around you. That creates psychological safety. And psychological safety builds attachment faster than flirting ever will. When a woman feels she can drop the mask around you, she relaxes. She opens up more. She invests more. Because now, you're not just another man evaluating her. You're someone who sees her and chooses her without modification. And here's the subtle power in that. You're not impressed by the act. You're drawn to the substance. When she associates you with the freedom to be real, she starts craving your presence. Not because you entertained her, but because you accepted her. Number 4, I love the way you see the world. It really makes me think. Most men flirt with a woman's appearance. Very few engage her mind. And that's exactly why this works. When you tell a woman that the way she sees the world makes you think, you're doing something powerful. You're not reacting to her body. You're responding to her perspective. You're acknowledging that her thoughts have weight. Here's the psychological truth. When a woman feels mentally stimulating to a man, she invests differently. Attraction moves from surface to substance. She doesn't feel chased. She feels respected. Think about the difference. Surface attraction says, I like how you look. Intellectual connection says, I value how you think. One is replaceable. The other is rare. Most conversations men have with women stay light. Teasing, compliments, small talk, safe territory. But the moment you say, the way you explain that, I hadn't thought about it like that before, you shift the energy. You move from flirting into depth. And depth creates tension in a different way. It's not loud, it's magnetic. Here's where you elevate it further. After you give that compliment, ask a follow-up question. What made you see it that way? Or, how did you come to that conclusion? Now she's expanding, opening, exploring ideas with you. You're not just attracted to her, you're curious about her. That's the difference between a man who wants attention and a man who builds connection. And here's something most men never realize. When a woman feels intellectually respected, she lowers her defenses. Because now she knows you're not just evaluating her beauty. You're engaging her mind. She doesn't feel pursued. She feels understood. And when she starts associating you with stimulating conversation, thoughtful exchange, and mental chemistry, attraction becomes layered, more complex, more personal. Because you didn't just see her, you listened to her. Number 5. Your energy makes me want to be better. Now we move deeper. Physical compliments validate appearance. Intellectual compliments validate thought, but this one validates impact. Every woman, whether she admits it or not, wants to feel that her presence elevates the man she's with. Not controls him, not rescues him, elevates him. There's a difference. When you tell her, "Your energy makes me want to be better," you're giving her something far more powerful than attraction. You're giving her influence, without surrendering your strength. Most men say, "You're hot." That's physical validation, temporary, replaceable. But when you say, "Being around you pushes me to level up," you're offering existential validation. You're telling her she contributes to your growth. Here's the key. You are not saying you're incomplete without her. You are not saying you need her to function. You are already grounded, already driven, already disciplined. She amplifies you. And amplification is powerful. The right woman doesn't distract your mission. She sharpens it. That line alone separates weak admiration from high-value recognition. Weak men shrink themselves around strong women. They compete. They feel threatened. They subtly try to pull her down so they feel bigger. Strong men do the opposite. They recognize strength and rise with it. When you complement her energy this way, you create alignment. Not dependency, not pedestal worship. Alignment. She doesn't feel like a trophy. She feels like a catalyst. And psychologically, that hits deep. Because now she's not just being desired. She's being respected for the way she moves through life, the way she carries herself, the way she affects you without trying. Say it calmly. Say it grounded. Not with awe, not with exaggeration, with certainty. When a woman feels that she inspires growth in a man who already has direction, attraction intensifies. Because she doesn't just feel wanted. She feels valued at a higher level. Number 6. You're one of the most thoughtful people I've met. We're living in a time where attention is loud, but character is quiet. Most people perform kindness. They post it. They showcase it. They make sure it's seen. But real thoughtfulness? That's subtle. It's the message she sends to check if you got home safe. It's the way she remembers something small you mentioned 3 weeks ago. It's the way she adjusts the room so everyone feels included. That's invisible labor. And here's something most men never notice. Women rarely get credit for the emotional effort they put into relationships. They're expected to nurture, to anticipate, to smooth tension, to remember birthdays, preferences, details. It becomes normal, expected, overlooked. So when you look at her and say, "You're one of the most thoughtful people I've met," you're cutting through noise. You're not complimenting how fun she is. You're not praising how entertaining she can be. You're recognizing integrity. Most men chase excitement. They look for chemistry, laughter, thrill, but very few pause long enough to acknowledge consistency, reliability, depth of care. That's where you separate yourself. Imagine she brings you your favorite snack without you asking. Or she checks in after a stressful day. Instead of brushing it off, you say, "I noticed that. You didn't have to do that. That says a lot about you." Now she feels seen at a deeper level. You're not validating her appearance. You're not reacting to her charm. You're acknowledging her character. And that creates emotional gravity. Because when a woman feels that you see her goodness, not just her beauty, she attaches differently. She feels safe investing more of herself. Not because you demanded it, but because you valued what most people overlook. That's power. You validate character, not attention-seeking. And when she realizes you respect the invisible parts of her, the parts that don't get applause, something inside her softens. She doesn't just feel admired, she feels understood. Number 7. I love how driven you are. Your purpose is inspiring. Ambition in a woman is powerful. And if we're honest, it can intimidate the wrong kind of man. A woman who has goals, who stays up late building something, who talks about her future with clarity. She's not waiting to be chosen. She's choosing her path. And here's the psychological layer most men miss. Ambitious women are often misunderstood. They're told they're too much, too focused, too intense, too independent. So when you look at her and say, "I love how driven you are," you're not just hyping her up. You're validating something she's been pressured to tone down. Some men feel threatened by a woman with direction. They compete. They subtly downplay her goals. They joke about her being too serious. You don't. You respect it. That distinction changes everything. Because now you're not positioning yourself as someone who needs her smaller. You're positioning yourself as someone who appreciates her sharper. Weak men want her softer so they can feel bigger. Strong men want her stronger, and they rise with her. When you say her purpose inspires you, you're building alignment, not competition. You're showing her that you're secure enough to admire ambition without feeling diminished by it. And this matters more than you think. A driven woman is constantly evaluating whether a man will support her growth or become an obstacle to it. When you openly respect her mission, you lower that guard. But remember the tone. Calm, grounded, no exaggeration, no pedestal. "I respect how focused you are. That's rare." Simple, steady, certain. Now she doesn't feel like she has to downplay her fire around you. She feels safe being powerful, safe talking about her plans, safe dreaming out loud. And when a woman feels that her ambition is not a threat in your presence, attraction deepens. Because now she sees you as a partner in momentum, not a distraction from it. She doesn't just feel admired, she feels understood in her strength. Number 8. You have this rare way of making people feel valued. This is the deepest one, because now we're no longer talking about how she looks, or how she thinks, or even what she achieves. We're talking about who she is in a room. There's a difference between someone who commands attention and someone who creates connection. The first one draws eyes. The second one draws hearts. And the second one is far more powerful. Some women have this quiet ability to make people feel safe. They listen without interrupting. They notice when someone feels left out. They adjust their tone depending on who they're speaking to. They make you feel like, in that moment, you matter. That's emotional intelligence. And here's the truth most men overlook. Making people feel seen is a social superpower. It's not loud. It doesn't demand applause. But it builds loyalty, trust, attachment. When you tell her, "You have this rare way of making people feel valued," you're not complimenting her charm. You're acknowledging her relational depth. And that touches identity, because beauty fades, status shifts, trends change, emotional impact doesn't. When you recognize her ability to hold space for others, to make conversations feel warmer, to create comfort without trying too hard, you validate one of her highest traits, the part of her that builds connection, not just attraction. And here's what happens psychologically. When you see that depth in her, she starts looking for depth in you. Recognition invites reciprocity. Now you're not just another man admiring her appearance. You're someone who understands how she moves emotionally, how she supports, how she stabilizes rooms. That creates something far stronger than chemistry. It creates emotional gravity. Because a woman who feels that you understand her relational strength will attach differently. She feels safe being nurturing, safe being attentive, safe being fully present. And when she associates you with being deeply understood, not just desired, attraction becomes layered, meaningful, lasting. She doesn't just feel admired. She feels recognized at her core. These aren't lines. They're psychological anchors. Most men think attraction is about saying more, louder, flashier, more impressive. But that's not how it works. Women don't fall for noise. They fall for meaning. Read that again. A woman doesn't fall for your words. She falls for how your words make her feel about herself. When you notice her scent, you anchor memory. When you recognize her smile, you validate impact. When you honor her authenticity, you create safety. When you engage her mind, you build depth. When you admire her energy, you build alignment. When you acknowledge her thoughtfulness, you validate character. When you respect her ambition, you strengthen her power. And when you recognize her emotional intelligence, you touch identity. That's not flirting. That's influence. And influence doesn't come from volume. It comes from precision. Say less, mean more. Deliver it calmly, intentionally, without desperation. Because the man who understands how a woman's mind works doesn't chase reactions. He creates emotional imprint. If you're ready to stop blending in and start understanding women at this level, subscribe. Not for entertainment, for elevation. Comment which compliment hit you the hardest and why. And share this with a man who still thinks you're hot is enough. The difference between forgettable and unforgettable is intention.